What's going on, YouTube? This is SG1 Sports, and you're watching our college football channel. We continue with our 2023 schedule preview projected record series. The Wake Forest Demon Deacons are up next. Here was their schedule from last year. They went 8-4, or 8-5, I should say. 7-5 in the regular season. Started off really well. And remember, they lost in overtime to Clemson. I mean, this team was very close to being 7-0 before that Louisville game, and then did not finish the way I think they hoped to finish. Louisville, NC State, back-to-back road games. Those got them. North Carolina, they lose that game, lose to Duke on the road. So that schedule at the end wound up being pretty tough. All five of those teams, even Syracuse, those teams turned out to be pretty good last year. Some of them better than expected, like Syracuse and Duke. And Louisville was a pretty good team last year as well. So again, you look at the schedule. They played VMI, Vandy, and Liberty, and then Army in the non-conference. They didn't have a very tough non-conference schedule at all. And then you look at the teams they played out of the Coastal Division. They played North Carolina and Duke, who wound up being maybe the two top teams in that division. I don't think that's what we expected going into the year. I think a lot of people were high on Miami and Pittsburgh. A lot of people were high on North Carolina, but no one saw Duke being there. But no divisions anymore. It'll be wide open, and no more divisions in the ACC. So let's see what this schedule looks like in 2023. You can see they will open up with Elon. That'll be on Thursday night of that opening weekend. That'll be a home game. They'll play Vanderbilt at home on September the 9th. Old Dominion on the road on the 16th. Then they play Georgia Tech at home on September 23rd. And then they get a bye week before playing Clemson. So a pretty good spot for a bye week right there before a huge game against Clemson. But they have a real shot to start off 4-0. They'll be favored probably in all four of those games in the month of September. But yeah, Clemson coming up next. That's going to be tough on the 7th. And then on October 14th, they go on the road to play Virginia Tech. So back-to-back road games and two of the toughest places to play in the ACC. That is a very tough back-to-back. Now, Virginia Tech not going to be anywhere near Clemson's level, or they're not expected to be, but still, that's a tough place to play. They play Pittsburgh after that on the 21st and Florida State on the 28th, back-to-back home games. Then into the month of November, they go on the road to play Duke on a Thursday night. That's going to be a tricky game there. And then NC State at home on the 11th. Notre Dame in the non-conference. They play them on the 18th, late in the season. And then on November 25th, they'll go on the road and face Syracuse. So you look at this schedule. I think it's tougher than last year's schedule. You look at who they play out of what used to be the Coastal. They have Georgia Tech, Virginia Tech, Duke. So not a lot of games against, again, what used to be the Coastal Division. So the conference schedule, not much different than what it normally would be. But I don't like the way they've got these games. Clemson and Virginia Tech, back-to-back road games. Notre Dame and Syracuse, back-to-back road games. You look at that stretch, really from Pittsburgh to the end, really from Clemson to the end of the season. There are no breaks. Clemson on the road will be tough. Virginia Tech, that's a tough place to play. Pitt will be a good team. Florida State, and I missed Pitt there when I was naming all former Coastal teams. Florida State's going to be a top 10 team. Duke will be a top 25 team potentially. They play them on the road on a Thursday night. That's tough. NC State will be a good team. Notre Dame, of course, probably a top 10, top 15 team on the road. And then Syracuse on the road to close things out. So this is a pretty tough schedule. I think it's definitely tougher than last year's schedule. And, of course, obviously with Notre Dame in the non-conference, that's going to make it tougher. And you'd hope to maybe play, you look at the teams that they played from what used to be the Atlantic Division. So the teams, they used to play every team in the Atlantic, obviously. Well, this year, they still play Clemson, Florida State, and NC State. So arguably the top three teams out of that division, they will play. They get no breaks there. And then Syracuse in there as well. So this is a very tough schedule, I think, for Wake Forest. Vanderbilt is a program that's getting better. And again, the way it sets up with two back-to-back road game pairs, Clemson, Virginia Tech, and then Notre Dame and Syracuse. Yeah, this is a tough schedule here for Vanderbilt. So let's see what the projection is. Again, we'll use this scale. If it's a 50-50 game, it'll stay in the white. Those are games that I think could go either way. Games where I think the spread will be less than a touchdown. If it's under 20, over 80, those are games where the spread will be 20 or more, in my opinion. 20-29, 71-80. Those are games where I think the spread will be 10 to 19 points. And then 30-39, 61-70. Those are games where I think the spread will be about a touchdown, 6, 7, 8 points, somewhere in that range. So we'll start with the easy wins. How many do you have? Well, you got a couple of them. Elon, Old Dominion, those should be easy wins for Wake Forest. And I'm viewing Wake Forest as a mid-tier ACC team. So a team that's maybe not a top 25 team, but not too far away. Kind of in the same spot as Pittsburgh, Duke, Syracuse, kind of in that same tier. In case you're wondering, I know Sam Hartman is gone, but I do still believe this will be a pretty good team. And so I think that they can take care of business in those games. They will take care of business in ththose games, and those should be pretty easy wins. I think Vanderbilt, Georgia Tech, and Virginia Tech, these are games where they'll be favored, but not by a lot. Vandy, again, is a team that's a program that's getting better. I don't know if they're quite ready to go on the road and beat Wake Forest. So I think they're about a 6-point favorite in that one. Same thing for Georgia Tech. Virginia Tech's a tough place to play because of that. Maybe this is more of a 50-50 game, but just looking at the rosters and the teams, Wake Forest still, I believe, is the better team. So 3 games there where they'll be favored but not by a ton. And then we go to the flip side, games where they'll be underdogs. I think Clemson, Notre Dame, both of these games on the road, very, very tough. They should be double-digit underdogs in both of these. And again, it'll be very tough for them to win either one of them. So for the projection, those will be counted as losses. Elon and Old Dominion will be counted as wins. And then Florida State, I think they're going to be about a touchdown underdog in this game because it's at home. They beat them last year. Maybe this one should be in the orange. I still want to see this Florida State team. I know they're really getting hyped up, and I believe they'll be a good team, but are they going to be at that elite level like Clemson potentially could be? It's hard to say right now, but this one's a close one for me, but because it's at Wake Forest, I'm going to keep this one in the yellow. And then that leaves Pittsburgh, Duke, NC State, and Syracuse. These are your 50-50 games. These are the games that could go either way. NC State would probably be in the yellow if it was on the road, but because that one's at home, that one puts that in the white. I think Wake Forest will be an underdog, but not by a lot. Probably underdogs against Duke. Favored against Pitt because it's at home, and then Syracuse, that's really a pick 'em there. But again, I think the spread for all of these games will be around 3 or 4 points. So to get the projection, we average out these games, count the orange as losses, the green as wins. Use 65% for Florida State game. Use 65% for the games in purple, 35% for the game against Florida State, and then 50% for these games that are still in the white. You average all that out, and you get 6-6. So a 6-6 projection for Wake Forest against, again, a tough schedule. If we view these teams the same way and went by last year's schedule, I think the projection probably would be higher. But this is just a tough schedule, and again, no breaks really. And once you get to Clemson, it is a grind from Clemson all the way to Syracuse. So a tough schedule for Wake Forest, and their projection for 2023 is 6-6.